Well, thanks everybody for joining us again on another episode of Raising the Grade, sponsored by Rising Tide Landscapes. I've had a wonderful day. I'm on guest number 3 today. I've got Steve here from LATICRETE. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And it's not LATICRETE.
It's actually LATICRETE.
Thank you.
The East Coast is where we thrive from and originated, and then they called it LATICRETE, and then the West Coast kind of like
took it over,
slaughtered the language, and call it LATICRETE now.
And it makes so much sense now that I know that it's latex concrete together.
That's exactly.
So there we go. That makes a lot of sense. Hey, thanks so much for coming out.
You're very welcome.
This is going to be fun. Let's get out of the gates running. Steve, we chatted a little bit about, some of your likes and dislikes, but take me all the way back. Give me a little bit of your history, maybe where you grew up, early jobs, and kind of how you ended up doing what you're doing.
So I grew up in Southern California, a little town called Norwalk, California. It's I could describe it as, being close to Disneyland.
Okay.
So my dad was a chemist. He went in the military to serve and learn chemistry, and then decided he wanted to pursue chemistry and became a chemist for a company called Dexotex.
Okay.
He developed underlayments, excuse me, underlayments, microtoppings, epoxies, urethanes, anything to do with a coating of a concrete surface. He developed a lot of it. From there, I went into R&D there. I went into,
Now, I mean, hold on. You didn't have like a summer mowing lawns or something?
I did not.
Okay.
Our conversations at dinner was coatings and chemistry. My dad was a nerdy guy, and we were bored, but you know what? It made us who we are, right? So I went right in. 14 years old, I was working at my dad's plant, mixing up like in little petri dishes, concrete material, seeing how long it takes to set up.
That actually sounds super fun.
It was a good job for a kid. It really was. And then you got to use those, old fashioned, I guess,
speakers,
ice cream makers, the ones that the blenders that blend, you put it in there, and as soon as the noise starts changing, you know that it's drying, and you mark the time. So, and that's how they test their cements, to make sure the cements were good, that they weren't too fast setting and that they weren't too slow setting, right? So because there's different types of cement. So it's quality control.
Okay.
From there, I went into actually manufacturing when I got older, when I could actually run machines and stuff. Went into research and development, and then I wanted to go into outside sales.
How old are you?
At that point, I was probably 19 years old when I wanted to go into outside sales.
I love it that you had such a background by the time you're 18 that you're able to like legitimately consider going into outside sales. I think you touched on a nerve for me, because I want our schools to be more about building our kids up for like a career in the real world. You're the case study.
That's it. Like ROTC, right?
Similar.
Yeah, very similar.
Same thing.
They teach kids at a young age in high school, what to do, so that when they get out, that might be a career that they want to go into. Mm-hmm. So I was, my school wasn't the facet for that. My dad was, and work was.
That's awesome.
When I wanted to get into sales, that was when things changed, because the owner of the company didn't like that there was an 18, 19-year-old kid that didn't have a college degree, a bachelor's degree, to go into sales, but yet I knew everything there was about coatings and overlays and toppings and all that
You've
stuff.
lived this at the dinner table. For all intents and purposes, if, concrete chemistry was a religion, your dad was a preacher.
That's it. That's it. So it upset me, not too bad, until they hired a good friend of mine from England that had no high school diploma and just going to sales. So at that point, I left the company, went into install, and then from install,
how long did you do the install? Oof. Like when you say went into, like, did you start your own thing, or did you go into sales?
Going into sales for an install company.
Oh, I got you.
So he hired me to go into sales, and from there, I was there for probably, I don't know, 5 years. We developed this company. I bought into it, became partners of the company. We grew it from 20 people to 70 to 100 people. And that's when I decided to go into commercial side of it, sales. And then that turned out to be the brothers fought. I ended up going into coming here to Arizona and going into actually installing the materials.
Okay.
So did that for many years.
How long did you install?
Probably, I want to say 10 years.
Inside, outside,
Everything.
both?
Commercial,
all the things?
residential, anything, everything you think of.
Pretty much tile, would you say? Or?
No, it was coatings, overlays, toppings, some tile, not a whole lot, but
Sounds fun and challenging.
it was fun. It was difficult. We did a lot of work at the mines, protective coatings at mines, because of all the acid they used to leach out all the copper and gold and silver that's in the rocks. So
Very specific.
we did a lot of work there. High paying job, at the mine. Very, very hard work though.
Can't even.
OSHA's nothing compared to MSHA. MSHA is like the worst.
Oh,
So I learned all about that too.
I bet. Yeah, it's OSHA's big brother.
Yeah, worse a bit. It's self-funded.
Oh wow.
So like if you didn't set your parking brake on your car, it's a $2,000 ticket.
Of course, 'cause we can.
They have to get their money.
Yeah.
They have people they got to pay, and they want to make a big dollar, and it's safety too.
Oh, for sure.
So
Everything starts out as safety. Building codes, building inspectors, everything starts out as we're going to help you, and then they take over.
from install, it was basically 80 to 100 hours a week,
Oh man,
4 months straight.
out there at the mines, even.
That was in town here in Phoenix.
Okay.
Just the amount of jobs that we would get, we couldn't do the amount of work so we had to work in every weekend, every day, 10, 15 hours a day for 4 months straight. That's when the straw broke the camel's back.
What happened
I
then?
told my buddy, good friend of mine, I told him, man, I said, LATICRETE came to me, offered me a job, not making anything close to what I was making with him, but I'm at the age where I needed to change careers. I couldn't keep doing what I was doing and live.
Exactly.
It's just too much. So
I think people undervalue how hard the people actually doing the work in the trades
definitely, it's hard.
are working. How hard it is on their body. You've got to be intelligent. So now you're not just sitting at a desk and you're not just pumping iron. You're doing both. You're using your body and your mind.
Absolutely. 100%.
That's fun. So LATICRETE comes along. They offer you something that you can't refuse. Yep. And what happens there? How long you been with them? Tell me a little bit of that.
I was with him for a long time, probably 8 to 10 years also. I actually got him in the coatings, when I moved here to Arizona. Became one of my best friends.
Cool.
To leave your best friend is probably the hardest thing I've ever done. And I told LATICRETE, I said, hey, I need 3 weeks, to tell him. And I couldn't tell him for 2 weeks. So I only actually ended up giving him a week's notice. But he was very happy that, because he wants out of it too. He's still doing it. Dang. And he wants out of it. But he's just, he's at that point where he's got that repetitive business always coming in and
hard to turn away.
Hard to let your employees go, right? And very hard to sell a company also to somebody that can actually make it still work.
I think that there's probably somebody
He needs,
probably watching this that probably would be interested in that.
Yeah, that would be a good thing, definitely.
I think that'd be kind of something cool that would come out of this. So the name of the podcast is Raising the Grade, Rising Tide Landscapes. We're really trying to just kind of elevate the industry. That's really why I called you in here. I went to a training at Bellegarde, and you were top tier. You knew all the answers. And in my last podcast, we came up with a phrase, he read the bag. So like there's all the product info is on every bag, but like not everybody listens to it or cares or anything, but you read the bag, So can you tell me a little bit about some of the things LATICRETE does or that you do to help just bring the level of excellence up in the valley in the industry?
For sure. So LATICRETE, I'm going to ruin it. I'm going to say LATICRETE. You know, we actually have a lot of programs that for educational purposes, right? We want to make sure we educate the people out there to do the process of setting tile, grouting, whatever it is that we have in our arsenal, that they're doing it to the highest standards, to the ASTM, the, you know, TCNA, all of them. You know, we want to make sure that they follow those guidelines and do it to those guidelines. So we'll go out and we'll train as a company. If a company wants us out there, we'll go there and do a training, you know, hands-on training.
I love this.
Very good. We have LATICRETE University has, you know, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of videos of every application of our products out there that are illustrated, that they could actually watch a 5-minute video. Some of them might be 10 minutes, some might be 2 minutes. They could take a test at the end of it, and they could get a certificate, right? So it's really good for an owner like you that has employees that say, hey, you know, I want you guys to
Bells
do
are
this.
going off.
Yeah.
You know, I'm thinking, okay, I can just build out a whole training program. I'll take some of Belgard stuff, some of LATICRETE stuff, some of, you know.
Absolutely. So especially if you're going to start a job, let's say of using Spectralock 1, right? A premium grout, you know, never used it before. Hey guys, I want you to study this, learn it. We're going to be doing this thing next week, you know, and even the owner looks up on it, and then before the job starts, start asking them some questions, right? Make sure they understand it and follow it, because they are very helpful. They're illustrated too, which means that we have videos shot of actually them installing it, so the people that can't learn by just talking about it could see it being done and can visually learn it. So
I absolutely love what you're about personally, but clearly what your company is about too. I mean, I think that it comes down to, well, what do you want? Do you really want to learn? Because if you do, you reach out to a couple of reps and stuff, like they're beating down your door. Hey, we've got you. We're going to come out and show you how to do this in your first install. Whether it's a poly sweep, whether it's the base for your pavers or your tile, or whether we're going to wet set tile with some, you know, LATICRETE.
Yep.
You guys are willing to engage. And I think that's just, I think it's powerful, but I don't know that everybody A, knows, or B, cares. You know?
The problem is the ones that don't care, the ones that have been doing it for 30 years, right? I've been doing this for 30 years. There's nothing that you're going to be able to teach me. But then again, in 30 years, there's a lot of changes that happened.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot.
I feel like my podcasts are turning into kind of like nuanced changes on really similar topics. And that's one that kind of comes up a lot is, you know, some of the, let's just say, more experienced folks are maybe a lot less likely to make some changes or adjustments to the way they do things. What are some ways you've had success kind of helping nudge people into, maybe let's just say, the right way?
Showing them failures is probably the best thing you could do. A lot of times I go on a job site, you know, and it's been an installer that's installed a product, you know, brand X, you know, and they're like, hey, I have a really issue with this, and, you know, can you tell me what's wrong with it? And sure, let's take a look at it and see where the failure's at, right? Last night I just talked to a guy that helps out with the TCNA, and he was talking about he had a project, and he's a consultant also.
Okay.
And he had a project that had some weird cracks in the tile, and they're very random, you know. And he was talking about it, and he goes, to find out what it was caused from blew me away. It's something that I've never seen before, but it made total sense. So showing them, taking pictures of it, documenting it and everything like that, and then going to classes and educating everybody.
You'd seen it before? Did you know what it was, or did you guys learn together?
He did not know. He had no idea.
Did you get to the bottom of it?
We did.
What was it?
So basically what it was is it was the floor mud. When you terminate floor mud and you come back the next day and put floor mud against it, you have to cut the floor mud at a 45-degree angle, right? So it locks in, which they did.
Okay.
But when they applied the floor mud again, they didn't put a slurry coat on it, so it didn't bond.
Yeah. Okay.
So because now there's a cold joint there, it's going to move. It's going to expand and contract differently than everything
It's been
else.
a big job.
Very big. So they have to fix it, you know.
Yeah.
And he was explaining that this is the problem, that there's issues that you see and you don't know what they are, but it's very educating to learn from the bottom up how these happened, and then educating other people how to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, and I mean, it's unfortunate, but I think as humans, there's one really good way that we learn, and that's the hot stove.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, oh, I didn't think of that. You know, my last guest, Matt, was in here and talking about every time he was a pool builder for a period of his career, and every time that something would go haywire, he'd add it to his disclosures and disclaimers, you know, this could happen, you know, but he, you know, part of it is too, there's the hot stove, but then we don't know what we don't know unless we learn about it.
And the guys that have been in business for 30 years have gone through all the pains of growing their business and the failures, right? I tell people I don't know from doing things right. What I know is not from doing them right. It's from all the mistakes I made.
100%.
I made hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of mistakes on jobs that I all learned from. When you make the mistake twice or 3 times, that's an issue.
We got a problem.
You got a problem. You're not paying attention to what your mistakes are. But believe me, I've made hundreds of them, and I've learned from every single one of them. And I tell people this all the time: don't do it that way. I've done it. I personally have failed, and need to change your ways.
So I'll push back a little bit. So I came from a space where vendors were constantly approaching. I was at a lumber yard, so vendors were constantly approaching me wanting to sell their newest best thing. And I think maybe some of the pushback you get from builders is so many times you're the guinea pig. You know, so speak to kind of like the longevity, how long LATICRETE's been around, and why that's something people don't have to worry about if they're using a LATICRETE product.
So LATICRETE is the inventor of setting materials for thinset. You know, that was back in the 50s. We also invented the first cold applied waterproof membrane for showers and stuff, pans. We also the first company to invent epoxy. You know, cold epoxy, a grout. So when we say we invented it, everybody else chases us, right? Everybody's trying to catch up to us, and
I like it.
And we call ourselves the innovators, right? We got new products coming out, you know, probably mid-year, you know, of new stuff. As for guinea pigs, we'll ask installers, hey, try this out. Let us know what you think about feel. But we do all our testing, and we put it out in the market, you know, on jobs, you know, years before it actually comes out on the market.
Yeah, sure.
We don't want failure, right? We will stick a tile 28 stories up on the outside of a building. We don't want it to fall off, and it falls and hits somebody. Guess what? Your company's done. Yeah. You know, it's a
big deal.
Yeah. So we don't want that to happen. We make sure all of our products exceed the standards, which a lot of people will meet the standards. We want to exceed them because we know the standards are going to change, and they are really starting to change.
It's really wise.
It's important. I mean, very important.
So something that came up to me that was like, okay, yeah, for sure, but I just don't understand it. And if you don't, just pass and we'll move on. But so polymer-modified thinset, what makes that so much better than just regular thinset?
The polymer that's in it, right? So the polymer in it.
What's it doing though? I get that, but like, okay.
It makes it.
So it gives it some stickiness
and some non-sag, right? So think about if you're doing a vertical surface. If you have a thinset that just like runs down when you go to stick that tile on there, it's not gonna.
That's gonna happen when you put a tile on.
It's gonna want to fall, right? It's gonna want to sag down. You don't get that adhesion.
Okay.
So the more fortified it is, the more polymer rich it is, the more it's going to be sticky and
you go almost from like a cementous product over to like almost a caulking or a latex product. So
that's correct.
I'm not doing this on purpose. I'm learning in real time here.
Right.
But so that's where LATICRETE's kind of this perfect balance.
Yeah. Do you know how a tile was set before thinsets were made?
I don't actually.
They were set in wet concrete.
Okay.
So they pour out, 4 inches of concrete, 2 inches of concrete, and they set the tile in that. So there's still jobs out there that the concrete's like, the tile's still stuck in the concrete. It's not going to come out. It's part of the concrete.
Yeah.
Right? Think about that. It's set in the concrete. Is there any area on that tile that's not bonded?
Yeah, no.
It's set. So that's why thin sets are very important. And that's why I train people, you need 100% coverage on that. You cannot have any hollow spots. You can't have any air in there. There's a certain way to hold the trowel. There's a certain way to trowel it out. It's very important that you get 100% coverage.
If you don't know that, or you don't learn somebody that's qualified, or had the 30 years of successful experience and had some failures along the way, I can totally see red flags.
That's it. I mean, there's tiles crack because there's voids underneath the tile. A tile won't crack if there's no void underneath it. If it's totally wet set, it's supported. It's not gonna crack. The same thing goes with the countertop, right? Same thing.
Yep, same exact scenario. What is maybe one of the things that's your a favorite product, or something that you think maybe people are like, wow, I didn't know that, or that might blow people away?
So I'm gonna say my favorite products now are the Tri-Lite and the Multimax Lite.
Okay.
All right. So we have a product.
What do they do?
We have 254 Platinum, which is like
It's kind of a standard, right?
amazing product. It's been a staple product for a long time. Submergible. You could put it in pools. You could set glass tiles in a.
What's
in a
kind
pool.
of the setup for that? Like, how long should it maybe set? Is it different in different applications? Like, what's the cure time on that?
Yeah, they're all the thin sets are different, right?
Okay.
So we have 254 Platinum Plus, which has a longer time and bucket time, like
working
time, because those are used for large porcelain panels.
Okay.
So to be able to set a porcelain panel, you need more time.
Sure.
You got to do the floor, you got to do the wall, or the wall or the floor. You got to do the back side of the panel. Panels are 8 foot by 4 foot.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of moving parts to set it. So you need more time. But the Tri-Lite and the Multimax Lite, they are light in the wording is there for a reason, because we have taken all the breathable silica out of it, because of silicosis, and used a different filler. So now it's, half the weight of a normal bag. So we have a 25-pound bag, and there's a 30-pound bag, depending on if it's Tri-Lite or Multimax Lite, right? Compared to a 50-pound bag. So what that has done is now it's allowed the older generation to stay in the trade longer.
Okay.
Because now they're not having to fight those 50-pound bags and help them mix it, so they're not breathing the silica. When they put it up on the wall, it's lighter on the wall. I mean, there's a lot of factors. So that's why I'm really key to that, because I want the younger generation to last even longer than the older generation that they're starting to fall out of. I think we lost like 11% of tile setters last year. People have fallen out of it.
You're
right?
really, I mean, frankly, kind of all three of my guests there today, which would be the last three podcasts, have kind of highlighted the same problem. A labor shortage is coming in the construction industry as a whole.
Absolutely.
You brought a real number to the table, and I think I'm going to have to do just a little bit of Googling here.
Yeah, research that
when I leave, because holy cow.
There's a lot. I mean, I think COVID had a lot to do with it too, right? Because of the older generation, they're like, hey, I'm done. I don't want to.
Well, it forced so many people out. That's so funny. It was just such a delineating time where people were like, I'm out. We're not doing this anymore. I can't deal with this. Or, maybe hunkered down and really sprouted out of that. Some businesses really thrived during that.
Yeah. And the workforce, the kids, they don't want to go into trade anymore, right? They want to sit behind a computer or
I think they need more exposure. I don't think you're wrong, but I think that it's up to us to kind of change the stigma.
Absolutely.
To try to show them how interesting and there's good money. It's very rewarding and satisfying. The learning curve, you're not going to run out of things to learn.
Yep.
There's no way you're going to even learn all there is to know about LATICRETE. Now, that's one part of a 100-part system I might have on a job. By the time you take in all the irrigation components and the block wall and the tile and the cantilevered pergola and all the different metals and stuff, and knowing what, behaves this way with this. And so I think I find it fascinating. I think most people that are exposed to it for just a little bit of time end up either having a respect for it or kind of falling in love with it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I heard a story this guy told me. It was yesterday. He said that he was talking to his son, and his son was if they had a school thing where their parents come in and they talk about their business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the one guy comes in and goes, "What do you guys think I am? What do you guys think I do?" "Oh yeah, you're a lawyer, you're a doctor, he named off all this stuff. He goes, "I'm a plumber." And then because they talk about salaries, right? They talk about how much they make, right? Awesome. First, and they all thought, a plumber makes that much. And then so he comes home and he's talking to his dad. The guy's telling me the story of the dad, and he says, "I didn't know plumbers make that much money." He goes, "Well, he probably owns a plumbing company, but you got to understand, he probably started off plumbing and was an apprentice, and then moved up, and then decided it's going to start his own business. Oh, you could have people do the work for you." So that's where the generation of kids they don't understand. But if they stick with the trade,
oh yeah, you actually hit on something there where I think that everybody feels like business ownership is, and being a new business owner, I'll tell you, it's not easy and it's not fun.
No,
it's work.
It's a lot of work.
But there's a lot of reward there because you've got some control over what it is you say you're doing, what you want to put out, how you want to impact those around you. So that's kind of invaluable.
Yeah, and that's raising the bar, right? That's honestly, that's what it's about. It's about, you want
raising the grade.
Raising the grade. There you go. So bringing that elevation up, right? Yeah. So you worked for a company that did it this way, but you felt that, it could be done better. But they always said, "Oh, that's the way we've always done it." Well, when he starts his own business, that's where he could actually bring this,
how
knowledge.
Would do it.
Yeah, bring his knowledge in and make everything better, right? So, he was like, son was just amazed that you could do it. He goes, "Then I think I want to go into trades." He goes, "Absolutely." So letting people know, if you go into a trade, and while you're in that trade, get some schooling, get some business knowledge, get some financial knowledge, how to do things. When you do jump into that business and you start it up, you have that knowledge of how, because you will mess up if you don't have those skills, right? You have to learn.
100%. I think you touched on something actually that it gets ignored. We talked about it a little bit, I think a few podcasts back, but basically I've known good businessmen, I've known good tradesmen. It's not often that I know somebody that's a good businessman and a good tradesman, and it's just this rare breed. So I think I would probably encourage anybody that's watching that maybe wants to get into the trades. Yes, by all means, but don't skip business class.
No,
I think that's where you're going to be able to see you can have really good margins in this, but it's really easy to squander if you're not careful. So that you need that business acumen as well as doing a really good job.
Absolutely. And do something. When you do something, don't do too many things. Do what you're good at, and master that. Like landscaping, right? You can master that. I'm sure you could go in and they're like, "Oh, can you come here and set this stone on this outside of this building?" Well, you could, but you're not going to be a master at it, right? So probably best to stay in what you master in and hone that out really good and make tons of money doing it.
I'm a big fan of specialists and tradesmen, so I definitely, in my own company, and then even as we are working through, like, my guys could build the pergolas, but I have somebody that just builds pergolas 7 days a week build my pergolas.
Yep.
I could run the gas line, but I have somebody that just runs gas lines run the gas line.
Yep.
So I'm a big fan of specialists. I think the funnest part for probably me and my salesman is getting to work together to make, 70 things happen on a job instead of just, I don't know how I'd do. But even my guy that just puts up pergolas, I'm saying I don't know how I'd do just doing the gas line. But, some of us are wired differently. I definitely have to have a lot of moving parts. I'm a bit of a ADHD squirrel for sure.
Right. No, I totally get that. Yes.
What do you think the future holds? So we talked about kind of maybe labor dwindling. Where do you think technology is going to take us into the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, kind of industry-wide? What are some things you think might be happening?
Well, they push, LATICRETE's pushing AI on us, to use AI and to help us. So that technology is not going anywhere.
I agree.
For sure.
It's bigger than the internet.
There's technology now for I don't know if you ever follow it, but measuring rooms. We used to use a tape measure, right?
Mm-hmm.
then okay, now we can use one of those roller tapes, you just roll a wheel,
Sure.
right? Then, now they have lasers, right? You can measure a room with a laser or pretty much. Now they have a thing where you just walk around with a stick and you have it.
It's a measure. It's fantastic.
I mean, so technology is always evolving and making our job easier, which is amazing.
But you got to be careful. You still got to know what you're doing with the stick.
Yes.
Or why you're measuring or why this matters. And I think that gets lost in translation somewhere. You end up, I've shown people how to use the stick, and then they use it, and then they get the data, and they're like, well, now what do I do? So it's kind of like full circle. You gotta, the tool's only gonna improve on a knowledge base that you've got.
Correct.
Working in the background.
But that's okay. So that's where the manufacturer of that tool needs to have some sort of learning, like LATICRETE University, right? Or a rep that goes out and shows people how to use it. We have a tool. We don't manufacture it, but we promote it where we could pin a room, meaning that we could set pins in a room and pour self-leveler up to the top of those pins to make that floor perfectly flat. So we set the high point, or we set the point where we want to start, right? Because we might want to set an elevation at a 1/2 inch. So when you set the tile, it's flush with a slider door, or a recess door or whatever. And so we set that elevation. Then we go around and we just put this it's a marker. It's basically a water level, what they use for pools.
Yep.
Similar to that. We set that, and then it tells you 3/8 of an inch or millimeters, whatever you set it in. You clip your little thing, stick it down on the floor, go next, 2 feet, set it, and you put up a grid. So when you pour your self-leveler,
You got something to screed with.
it's perfect.
Yeah.
It'll you just keep pumping it or pouring it until it reaches the top of that, and just keep moving along. Next thing you know, you got a perfectly flat floor for a panel. It's tools like that. It's changing, always changing. These cutters for porcelain panels have changed. They have you score it and break it, and it's making everything easier, faster, and better.
I don't know if it's any good, but the current fascination I have is on this tool I've seen come across my feed many times. It's both it looks like a plasma torch and a welder.
Yeah, I see that too.
In one thing. And I'm like, well, I don't know how good the welds could be, but it just looks like I want to get my hands on one
And try it.
and play with it.
I know.
I mean, that looks so cool.
I agree.
Okay, so where were we? We were talking about cool tools. Yeah, no, I'm working on, I want to be able to, I'm trying to develop some software that has to do with measuring. So it's fun that you would bring up the Moser. So when I first got my Moser, I was emailing the guy. I'm like, you need a grid, you need a grid, you need a grid, because you could print off what you got, but it was just on a white piece of paper. It had no point of reference. So then they loaded a grid behind it so that now when you print it off, it's to scale.
Oh,
But
nice.
things like that are like such a game changer, and I think that what I think AI is going to do is make things like that happen on a really fast scale. And we might even get ahead of ourselves, but I think there's a lot of potential for really huge innovation.
Think about if you could plug in a 12 by 24 tile and lay it out for me. AI, hey, lay this out for me so that it gives me the least amount of saw cuts, and it's the most aesthetically appealing floor. And then all of a sudden it gives you your waypoints of all your chalk lines, right? Where to start. Think about that.
We're so close. We're so close.
Because now they all have to think to put it up, right? They have to think, okay, where am I going to start? Where am I going to
And there's a lot of trial and error with that thinking process. You're measuring, and okay, if I start here, I'm going to be there. You might even snap some fake lines to kind of get your bearings about you and stuff, and then be like, okay, here's my line. We're going to start 6 inches off my line or whatever.
Right.
And you're so spot on.
It could tell you how many tiles you need to buy. You could give it a 10% overage, for breakage or whatever. It could get it to the perfect amount. We have our estimator that you could tell it, what size tile you're going to use, what grout you're going to use, what size tile, the depth of the tile, the size of the grout lines that you're going to use. You punch that all into this app, and it tells you exactly how many bags of grout you need.
Here's where I'm excited to get to. And again, I don't know, I keep talking about AI on every podcast. You're going to think this is a different podcast. But I'm excited to have an agent that knows all the apps and everything, and then I can just say, hey, how much tile do I need? Go use LATICRETE's app and tell me how much tile and everything, you know. But like, so I guess one of my big frustrations, and I think we talked about it a little bit last podcast. No, sorry, first one. There's a myriad of apps. There's so many apps. You almost end up with like, you know, great, there's all this technology. That's wonderful. But like, you know, there's 75 AI apps right now, and there's 75 editing apps, and but what I want is that one. Okay, I'm gonna go do a job. I want you to figure out how much tile I need. You know, just like we're really close to like basically general intelligence with AI, where you're gonna have an agent that basically is gonna go do all the work you would do by touching in, typing in all the things.
Pretty cool.
We're close.
Yeah, every app would work with itself to figure out what you need. That would be
close.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Tell me a little bit about anything that you would like to see change in the industry. If you could snap your fingers and one major component of your industry would change, what would that be?
Probably, there's not one thing, but
you can do three.
Probably
rank them.
Probably the installation method is what I want to change, right? I mean, there's, and it's being changed right now. So when you look under the TCNA,
you keep saying TCNA, Tile Council of North America,
right?
Okay.
Right. When you look at that, they tell you to trowel out the ridges, right? Do you know in that book it doesn't tell you what angle to put that trowel on?
Believe it, but I didn't know it.
I didn't know it either. You know, I was told this last night that you know, here a consultant goes and does a consultant job, and he says that, you know, what angle did you have the trowel on when you put it down? Because that puts a certain amount of material. If you have it on a 20-degree angle, it's not going to put any material down, right? So the angle that you need is a 45, right? But it doesn't say anything. And he's like, and they're like, well, nowhere in the book does it say that. So he's like, you know, looking through the book, panicking, and then, you know, sends off an email and says, I apologize. Because, you know, it's not in there. But because he is a part of the council, they're going to adapt that in there. They got to put stuff in there. So
yeah,
there's, I mean,
you got to be willing to change and modify and grow.
I just wish people would be more open to like learning, right? The learning process, and not think just because they've been doing it for, you know, 100 years or 30 years that they know everything. If I could snap my fingers to where they're more adapt to learn and
open to growth, maybe.
Yeah, because everything is changing. I mean, products are fast. Products are changing. You know, grout dries fast now. Everybody is like wishes, oh man, I remember grout, it wouldn't dry so fast. We don't have much time to work with it. You do. You have plenty of time to work with it. It's just that you're so used to having hours and hours to trowel out, you know, grout, and then coming back the next day basically and cleaning it because it's so wet. But and I'm exaggerating, but the only reason why it dries fast now is so that the color is consistent. If it dries slow, it's like concrete. When concrete dries slow, you got dark and light spots all in it, because the deeper the pore is, the darker it is, right? The shallower the pore, the faster it dries, it's lighter.
Fascinating.
And that's the same thing for grout. We want it to dry fast so that it dries consistent.
So you get that
It's
uniformity.
not blotchy. So I mean,
what do you think is the big pushback? Why is it that people, I mean, in our industry, but just people are so hesitant to learn?
I think it's because they just think they know it. You know, I don't think it's like malicious. I just think, oh, I don't have to learn. I've been doing it for 30 years. I don't have callbacks. I don't have any problems. Well, I don't have any problems because, you know, 5 years down the line when there is a problem, nobody has any recourse on it.
Yeah.
You know, why would they call you up and say, oh, your tile cracked?
Yeah.
Or it's coming up, or the grout's peeling out of it.
Yeah.
They're not. They're just gonna hire somebody else to come fix it and then hope for the best.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
I think it's just them. There's a lot of times I go and train and you know, they're like, oh really? You have to do that? I'm like, you don't do it? He goes, no, I've been doing this for 30 years. No. And then they adapt and they do it. They're willing to learn and they do it. And then they call you up and it's the best feeling in the whole wide world. Hey man, this worked out so good. Thank you so much for giving me the knowledge that you gave me. You know, it makes you feel good because you've been doing it for half the amount of time he has.
It's hard to find people like you, Steve, that want to give away the knowledge, because the truth be told, not a lot of people want to be teachers. A lot of people want to be know-it-alls, and there's a really big difference.
And they don't want to share because they feel that they have an edge on somebody else.
It's
especially installers,
it's
right?
huge right now, where I think people don't realize, like, bro, nobody's stealing your secrets.
Right.
It's okay to share knowledge, because at the end of the day, it's out there if they want to go find it.
There's plenty of work.
Why not have it? There's plenty of work, but there's also plenty of knowledge. Like you can go find whatever you want, even if maybe Steve wants to gatekeep it for me. So
we have two things that I'm really proud of that LATICRETE has. Well, there's a few, and one of them is LATICRETE University. The other one is our MVP program, where people can sign up. They earn points for every dollar that they spend, right? Okay. And they move up in tiers if they spend, like, don't quote me on the exact amount. It's $30,000 on they get like bronze, and they get like 3 points per dollar. Silver's like $40,000, $50,000 platinum, and they get 6 points, right? So they earn points, and then LATICRETE will take them, like they could take 1 million points that they earned, and they could go on a trip with us to Alaska.
That's fun.
And we ask contractors from all states, right? Arizona contractors, the MVP here. Hey, you want to go to Alaska? Yeah, we ask it. Oregon, we ask Colorado, we ask everywhere, right? So they'll get, whatever we do, the amount of couples that we could get, because some bring their wives, and they get together and they learn from each other. They actually, it's about having fun, fishing, hunting, golfing, whatever they do a bunch of different stuff, wineries, but they also, have dinners and they talk it. And they all learn from each other on jobs that they've had problems with. It's always problem jobs. Nobody talks about, I did this beautiful job. It's the most beautiful thing.
Worked out so perfect. Yeah.
It's always, man, I did this job and there's this huge crack that just kept coming. You know what I mean? And this is how I fixed it. And that's a huge thing. Yeah. And we have a thing called Inside Track, LATICRETE Inside Track. Okay. It's a Facebook. You sign up for it, and where all of our LATICRETE Inside Track people that are on it will come in. They'll ask questions like, "Hey, I got a problem with a grout," and it's
like a contractors board. These are great.
Yeah, and I got blotch in this, and then everybody chimes in and said, "Oh, I had that problem with that color. Get a hold of your rep, and who's my rep? Oh, it's such and such." Because sometimes they don't know who the rep is. Sure. They buy it from.
You don't know till you don't know.
Yeah, so it's huge. I mean, it's everybody uses each other on that social media, on that board, right, to help each other out. And when I see that helping everybody out, that is like huge. Mm-hmm. They're not competitors at that point. Yeah, they're brothers. They want to make sure that everybody's doing it right, and they're making LATICRETE have the best name out there. It's awesome. I mean, I'm proud of that.
I think that you mentioned earlier there's enough work out there, but I think that a lot of people don't believe it. And that's what causes kind of the fear about sharing or even, I guess, maybe learning. But for sure, there's enough work out there.
There is. If you're a good installer, you're going to get that repetitive business, and you're going to get as much work as you do. If you're doing shoddy work and using lesser products and having some issues, you're not going to get the referrals. Yeah. It's going to be hard to get the job. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, people, I think, are a lot smarter, and they don't just get the lowest number. Yeah. They look for that. They look for that 3 bids or 2 bids, and they'll be like, "Oh, this guy was $2,000. This guy was like $50,000. This guy was like 10. I think the 10 is the guy that is probably, the right choice, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, there's plenty of work.
I definitely think that it was touched on, in a different episode, but about educating your customers. If you're sitting across the table from a homeowner and you're not able to justify your price, you're going to have a problem. Yeah. But if you can sit there and go, well, look, here's why, or X, Y, and Z, these things all cost more money. We're doing these things that other guys aren't doing. Maybe I can take them out. Maybe I won't even do the job if you don't let me do these things.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think there needs to be a little bit more pushback. I think that's really one of the keys that I learned today what that I'm going to actually take away with me is kind of, you know, to your point and to what we were chatting about earlier, was just explain and set expectations. Explain and set expectations. Why is it more? What are you doing different? How is this better? Do we need to do this? You know, I think because there's just fluff.
Right.
You're just trying to fluff a bid, and that's no good.
Yeah. When you talk to a homeowner or a commercial or something like that, and you tell them, hey, do you want a grout that can stain, or do you want a grout that is resistant to staining? Are they going to say they want one that stains? No, they're going to say, oh, they want one resistant to staining. Well, I could give you pricing for both, you know, and let them make that decision. Try to upsell them on that. Do you want a wall board, a cement board that's not waterproof, that you have to waterproof the whole thing, and there might be a problem with, you know, a penetration or something like that? Or do you want a wall board that is completely waterproof?
You guys do wallboard?
We do. We have Hydroban board.
Oh, okay.
It's 100% waterproof.
Yeah, I've heard of Hydroban.
You could screw without washers, you know, except for the ceiling, and it's the real deal.
That's awesome.
So, they'll say, no, I want that. They're willing to pay for it if they know about it.
What do you got? Do you have a product that is lights out for waterproofing, like planters, like planter boxes outside? Like, so CMU, you have something that I can coat that with, or is it just like
outside of a planter box?
Inside.
Inside of,
yeah.
Is it going to have tile? Is it going to be covered?
Nope. It's just, this would be more of a sealer. I don't even know if this is.
No, we do not. Okay. So,
I know there's other products out there. I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, no, we don't. All of our products have to be covered. So there's 2 waterproof products that we have. There's liquid Hydroban and there's Hydroban cementitious. Hydroban cementitious is what we use on negative side walls where there's moisture come through that you have to tile. So let's say like a waterfall of a spa, you know, that's all tile face. That's what we use cementitious on.
Okay, cool.
So
we're getting kind of close to wrapping up here. And this has been fantastic. I usually like to take this opportunity and let you kind of have the floor. Is there anything that, Steve, you would like to say to anybody watching this to help them raise the grade, or last LATICRETE promotion, or just anything on your heart?
I would say, I mean, if you're in the tile setting business or using any LATICRETE products or brand X, do your research on the product itself. Do your research on the warranty that you're given by the installer or by the manufacturer.
I like
warranties are huge. We don't want any of our contractors to take on the burden of a warranty. We want to help them out because we know that if there is a failure, that could take them out of business. And guess what? We're going to lose their business, and it's going to give the tile, a bad name, and they're going to start using luxury vinyl plank, or they're going to start using something else more, thinking it's better because of all the bad issues that they have, with the tile. But reach out, get educated on the system warranties. There is a brand X out there that, they don't make a grout. So think about that. So you're putting in their setting materials, you're putting in their waterproofing materials, you're putting in everything, but you're using somebody else's grout. Who's going to warranty that grout? Who's going to warranty the product if they're saying the grout's what's causing the failure? Try to stick with a system. If you're going to use brand X, use brand X throughout. If you're going to use LATICRETE, use LATICRETE throughout. Get that system warranty. Don't just get a material warranty. It's very important.
It's big dollars to go back if something fails.
Big dollars. And we're here to help. People think that the manufacturer is just going to say, oh, you did this wrong. We're not here to do that. We're not here to point blame. We're here to figure out what went wrong, why it went wrong, and we want to make sure that we help out the person that did the work so that they don't go out of business.
Yeah, as much as you can. We definitely want to encourage proper techniques for everything, by all means. But I completely hear it. I love your heart for teaching. I can't wait to be in your next class. I don't know. What do you got coming up?
I got a over in Tucson over at Bedrosian's in Tucson. We have it's very far. We have a porcelain panel for showers.
Okay.
Class being put in. So
What date? I'm trying to see if
it's going to be in March. I don't have the exact date.
Cool.
But
If you get it to me, we can put it down in the description,
I'll do that.
and that way it pops up when people see this.
Yeah, for sure.
Man, thank you. This is awesome.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, what you're doing here is good.
Thank you so much. We're trying.